So about a month ago, I was invited to attend a quasi-secret testing event hosted by Redstorm Studios along with other members of the Division, YouTube, and Twitch communities. And today, I am happy to report on my findings concerning all things Dark Zone related. What's going on, ladies and gents? It's LtBuzzLitebeer, and this is the video that you have been waiting for. The Dark Zone in the Division 2, and also with that, all of the background concerning the Dark Zones, storylines, and changes to the combat areas. I know many of you are looking for PvP specific news, and I have just posted another video concerning that singular topic to my channel, so please either look in the video description for a link to that video or just check my channel for the video post. For those of you that just want to skip around to the different sections of this video, I will include timestamps in the video description as well as review the topics for you right now. First, I want to give you some of the background information concerning the backstory, campaign, and individual Dark Zones, and yes, there are multiple Dark Zones in Washington, D.C. Next, I'm going to dive into the rogue loop and gameplay changes in the DZ for the Division 2, and there are many items to cover in this section. We can't discuss anything DZ related without discussing the new anti-cheat system and server enhancements that will be implemented. Clans are on many players' wish list, and I have some basic information concerning those. And finally, organized PvP, and unlike in the Division 2 will ship with organized PvP day 1, so we can run through that as well. So without wasting any further time, let's dive right into our first topic. 1. The Division 2 takes place 7 months after the events of Black Friday, with SHD agents receiving a distress signal from Washington, D.C. It seems that the city is on the verge of collapse, with civilians forming settlements, little areas of refuge, but they are surrounded by hostile activity on all sides, and the Division is their last hope of survival. For those of you that are PvE-focused players, all the beauty of Washington, D.C. can be explored in a 40-hour story campaign over a huge playable area that can be played in either a squad or solo and at your own pace. In addition, the vaunted Dark Zone is back with its own brand of PvEVP, and it is this volatile mix that creates some unique tension within its boundaries. The Dark Zone is where players go to get a little more gear, but at the risk of losing it all, and that's the catch. Each Dark Zone will start with a PvE tutorial known as an intro mission, so on your own, without the threat of PvP, you will be able to explore each DZ through the course of your normal leveling experience. You will have a chance to explore each Dark Zone safely, find landmarks, extractions, safe rooms, or simply take in the scenery, all without the threat of PvP. Once you complete the intro missions, they will turn into the Dark Zones you all know and love. In the original Division game, the Dark Zone was the epicenter for the outbreak. It's where it all started. The Dark Zone walls represent the failed attempt to contain the dollar flu. 7 months later, DC serves as a stark contrast to that of Manhattan. The green poison has contaminated everything, and unlike New York, there is not one singular epicenter, but 3. You heard me correctly, there are 3 Dark Zones in Washington, D.C. So let's take a look at this early map unveiled in one of the Division live streams and get a general idea of where these Dark Zones are located. Dark Zone East, located here on the map, is centered around the Capitol train station and is dominated by long sightlines and features a very open and range-driven style of combat. Dark Zone East is where the military set up shop when the green poison first hit DC, and they used this area for funneling supplies into the city. But there was a terrible disaster, and it became a Dark Zone. Dark Zone South, located approximately here on the map, is the DC waterfront and is overgrown with vegetation. It is characterized by large interiors and caters to close combat. This area is where the sick were initially directed when the green poison hit DC, but summer flooding and other dangerous events occurred, and it turned into a Dark Zone. The third and final Dark Zone is Dark Zone West, located here on the map, and this is the Georgetown area. It is made up of residences, backyards, and alleyways, and focuses on medium-range combat. As part of the campaign storyline, this area was a testing ground for a new compound called DC-62, a purpose-built antivirus constructed by the government aimed at destroying the green poison, and it was brought here to Georgetown for testing. Unfortunately, it didn't work, and instead turned this region into a disaster area, designating it as a dark zone. In fact, each dark zone is in some way tied to this new compound, DC-62, and you learn more background information about it through the intro missions for each DZ. This brings us to the new rogue loop mechanics and gameplay changes for when players enter the dark zone. In the original Division game, the rogue system was all about PvP, and if you didn't enjoy PvP, then you couldn't enjoy the rogue loop. Players still went into the DZ to explore and play all the dynamic content in the form of landmarks, but going rogue or hunting rogues was just not something they participated in. The design team was looking for methods to increase the ways in which players could interact with the Dark Zone because it took up a lot of space in the game and they needed to get more players in there and participating in the content. Now with that in mind, they have added new PvE actions, ones that focus on theft and greed. In the Division 2, if you come across a Dark Zone chest and don't have a key to open it, you can break the lock on the chest and steal the contents of that chest. If you come across a Dark Zone supply drop, you can share it with the agents around you, or you can steal it all for yourself. When you do either of these, or a multitude of other actions, you are marked as rogue, and that means everything you think it means, making you vulnerable to PvP combat. Maybe being a sneaky thief is not your thing, and you like engaging in combat with other agents, and maybe you happen to kill them. Well, you are all too familiar with that skull that's now over your head. You have disavowed the Division and are now marked as rogue. But maybe you want to take it to the next level. You like that PvP experience and want to actively hunt other agents. And when you do, you of course go manhunt. Now the server has an objective to get you and anyone in your squad. Me and my squad actually participated in this new Thieves' Den mechanic where we broke the locks on the chest and went rogue. Once rogue, we were required to move from objective to objective, steering clear of combat and interact with certain devices that gradually raised our thieving meter. Once you have interacted with enough of these devices and you have reached 100% on your meter, you can enter the Thieves' Den safe house and will be able to barter with the clerk inside. The net results I was not able to see because that bartering portion was not in my version of this demo, but I believe it will be for exclusive loot. This and other activities are aimed at getting not only PvP but PvE players into the Dark Zones and actively participate in the content. There is also a new Double Down Rogue mechanic where when and if you are Manhunt, you can travel to the Manhunt terminal to buy off your Manhunt status, much like in our current Division game. However, there is also another interact at the Manhunt terminal where you can double down and amp up your Manhunt status. The whole idea about this new mechanic is for Manhunt adrenaline junkies to keep the fight going and creating even more PvP tension. When you double down, you are placing yourself into even greater risk of losing everything, but also into even greater loot drops if you were able to clear it. There are many changes to the Dark Zone landmarks, which include different difficulties and can be seen when you look at your minimap. Landmarks are now designated as hard or challenge difficulty and will differ in the number of NPCs that are protecting the area as well as the NPC levels, such as elites. Challenge difficulty landmarks seem to feature multiple waves of NPCs along with enhanced loot drops. Also incoming for all players entering the Dark Zones are major changes to gameplay mechanics, starting off with VoIP. VoIP has given us some unique social interactions within the DZ, and it will return for the Division 2, but unlike in the original Division game, will instantly disable once you start exchanging fire with another agent. So lay down the smack talk before the fight, but once somebody goes rogue and you start exchanging fire, all communications outside of squad chat will disable. A new mechanic to the Dark Zone, but not to organized PvP agents from the original Division game, is normalization, and it will be implemented throughout the Dark Zones for the Division 2. It was said that the dev team decided to normalize the Dark Zone because they wanted to prevent situations where progression negatively impacted fair play. It was also discussed that build choices will be respected and that sudden changes to the meta will not occur. The normalization will be transparent and can be seen through your player screens once you enter the Dark Zone, so you can see exactly how it is being implemented. Normalizing gear in the DZ was done so to make the Dark Zone more about skill than time spent. So for instance, if I have a high-end M60 and you have a superior M60 and we both enter the Dark Zone, our weapon stats are going to be normalized. That is a complete departure from what we are used to, and I can see where some of you would be throwing your hands up in the air in disgust, but stay tuned. For those of you that frown upon normalized PvP in the Dark Zone, the dev team has created a spot just for you. At the end game, one of the Dark Zones will become occupied, and these DZs offer the most intense experience that can be created within the Dark Zone walls. The occupied Dark Zones are where you can go to test out your fully min-maxed build to its fullest potential. In the occupied Dark Zone, friendly fire is activated, so any wild shot can trigger a firefight. There is no normalization within the occupied Dark Zone, so every calibration, every optimization you have made to your gear counts. There are no statuses in the occupied Dark Zone, so if you spot another agent in the distance, there is not going to be a rogue symbol over their heads. In fact, they won't even have a shade logo over them. They are just another agent, and you have no idea what they are going to do or what they have done already. To be clear, the occupied Dark Zone will rotate among the 3 Dark Zones and changes perhaps on a weekly or daily timer. And finally, the Division 2 will feature checkpoint turrets that protect agents as they enter and leave the Dark Zone. 2 turrets are positioned outside each checkpoint, and from my first-hand experience with them, they are both extremely powerful and have exceptional range. My squad made the mistake of attempting to toggle rogue on another squad while we were in range of the turrets, and we were almost instantly melted. On another occasion, my squad was full manhunt and attempting to make it to an extraction for an attempted rope cut. We passed within the protective range of the turrets, and they repeatedly dropped several of my squad mates. Now FYI, they don't fire rounds, but instead shoot out an electrical charge, much like a shock turret on steroids. In any case, they are extremely effective at keeping rogue agents away from the checkpoints and allow for easy entry and exit to the Dark Zones. 3. All of these new changes to the Dark Zone: normalization, 3 different Dark Zones, an occupied Dark Zone, theft and greed rogue loop mechanics, double down manhunts, and a whole host of other changes are not going to amount to anything if the game can't support a steady server infrastructure or protect honest players from the ever-present threat from hackers. And that is what we need to discuss in this section of the video. The design team has broken this section into 4 pieces, which I'm going to cover for you now. Number 1. The client-server architecture has been reworked from that of the Division 1, and that more processes are handled on the server side so that there's less chance for data modifications, i.e. hacking. Number 2. The server count for dedicated Dark Zone servers has been increased to improve latency for players. Now there's also another reason for that increased server count, which I'm going to cover for you in a moment. Number 3. We all know how lackluster the anti-cheat system, or lack thereof, worked in the Division 1, so in response, the team has reworked the game in several capacities. First is that the game now has its own internal solutions in place, and second is that the Division 2 will feature integrated third-party anti-cheat software. Now this will allow for a better process for identifying cheaters and a banning process that's much smoother. Now at this time, I do not know who is providing the third-party anti-cheat software, even though I did ask the design team while at Redstorm. And finally, number 4. Remember when I mentioned that there was more to the increased server counts for the Dark Zone? Well, that is due to the fact that each Dark Zone will now have a maximum player count of 12 players at one time. While testing the build at Redstorm, we were placed into a DZ in 3 teams of 4 players, and at no time did it feel too tight or too barren. If we needed to farm, there was room, and PvP was never too far away if we were looking for that as well. Clans have been something I have seen mentioned for a number of years, and coming in the Division 2, it will finally be implemented. Each clan will feature their own progression track, earning clan XP, which unlocks a range of group objectives, perks, and exclusive vanity for your clan. Clans feature their own unique forms of communication, specific clan chat, direct messaging, bulletin boards, and even their own leaderboards. Now, I don't have much more information other than this, as the idea behind us testing the build was all about PvP and not so much going into details about clans. Organized PvP was something that was sorely lacking day one of the release of the original Division game, and we did not see anything along those lines until February 2017, nearly 1 year after its release, when we got the Last Stand update. Organized Squad TDM was not seen until update 1.8 with the release of Skirmish and the Resistance update, and both of these were sorely missed for far too long. In response to that missing piece of the puzzle for the Division, both TDM and Domination will ship day 1 with the Division 2 in the form of Conflict, which is the name given to both game modes within the organized PvP structure. Skirmish is the TDM game variant with teams fighting to deplete the enemy team's respawns, and Domination is your classic objective-based game mode featuring 2 4-man squads fighting for control of 3 objectives. There are 3 custom maps that are shared for both conflict game modes, and these are specifically built for organized PvP, and these are not sections of the map that you would see in your exploration or through your normal campaign progression. Conflict, like the regular Dark Zones, will feature normalization and will also feature its own progression tracks. So, the more you play Conflict, the more your PvP level goes up, which gives you access to rewards and unique vanity items. The final informational tidbit about Conflict is that it will implement skill-based matchmaking, meaning you will always play against players that are near your skill level. Conflict will continue to grow post-launch with new maps and game modes, along with clans being integrated into many aspects of the game. Sadly, while at Redstorm, I discovered that Survival, a favorite game mode of hardcore Division agents, will not be in the launch day edition of the Division 2, and I was not able to gain any further details as to if it will return, and if so, what it will be like. I also inquired about the possibility of a Division app, much like in Destiny, to allow for easy customization on the go. Now, this question was met with nothing but tight lips and shoulder shrugs. So, I am using my intuition to say that it is a definite maybe. Well, there you go, agents. Quite a bit of new information for you to digest and process concerning the upcoming launch of the Division 2. As always, I look forward to reading your thoughts in the comments section below. If you could take the time to rate the video with a huge thumbs up, it would be greatly appreciated. If you want some more LtBuzzLitebeer in your lives, make sure to pound that sub button and configure your settings to receive all my newest YouTube content. Follow me on Twitter, and look for me over on Twitch with weekly Division streams. Remember that I have also just uploaded my full write-up on the Division 2 PvP, including my thoughts and suggestions, so look for it on my channel immediately following the end of this video. Until my next The Division 2 video, this has been LtBuzzLitebeer, saying peace out.